It's been over a month since I started posting daily, and it has been quite the journey. In my post, I Don't Want to Mind, I discussed how often my brain tells me to quit, and yet, some of you pay me for my work. It is difficult for me to talk about my thoughts and feelings regarding people paying for my work. There is a large part of me that believes my work is not good enough, or that I do not deserve to be paid to write, or that I do not deserve to be paid to make art at all. That voice is my constant companion. When I go back and review my work from a month ago, I find typos, poor flow, and ideas that are underdeveloped. I can't help but cover my face and say, "Gosh, Adam, how could you have published that?" Rereading those posts is like listening to a recording of a performance in which I sang off key. Despite this, people still tell me, "You're doing good work, keep going, the flaws make your work real." So here I am. You can pay me and I'll keep making shit sticks, as referenced in my first awful post, but they will always be authentic shit sticks. That's part of the promise. Recently, while driving home from work, I was chatting with a friend who said, "You shouldn't post every day. You're going to burn yourself out." My response was something to the effect of, "I'm not worried about burning out. I'm worried about running out of ideas." This got me thinking about my idea creation process. As I drove north on Lakeshore Drive, looking at the buildings, I thought, I could probably get an idea for a post from just about anything. Look, there are buildings. Sears Tower. Oh boy. I remember a story from. I'll end the quotes here to begin writing in paragraph form. I'm sure you don't want to listen to me talk through the entire post. When I was around 10 years old, I went on a field trip to the Sears Tower, now the Willis Tower. Before ascending to the top, there was a tour with information about how the tower was built, a neon model of the elevators, and a video presentation featuring Oprah. The show before the feature was interesting, but the highlight was reaching the top. I was in awe of the view of Chicago laid out before me. There was so much noise down below, and yet it was so quiet up above. Someone said if you dropped a penny from the top of the tower, it could cut a person in half. I would press my face against the windows and try to see the sidewalk below, imagining what it would be like if pennies were to rain from the sky. My dad had given me binoculars, so I didn't have to put a quarter in the binocular machine, and I could see so many places I was familiar with from up above. I loved the queasy feeling I would get in the pit of my stomach as the tower swayed back and forth in the wind. The Sears Tower skydeck is a truly extraordinary place. As we exited the tower that day, I pretended that I had forgotten something and went back in through the outdoor. The first security penetration test of my young life would have easily gotten me back up the tower, if not for the fact that my school group was on its way out of the building. Even at 10 years old, I knew that if I got caught going back up the wrong way and got in trouble, the tower security might patch their vulnerability before I got a chance to exploit it. Subsequently, many weekends were spent at the top of that tower. As I grew more familiar with the security measures around the skydeck, I felt comfortable showing my friends how to get in for free. I even made a game out of collecting backpacks full of the free informational brochures that were available in the viewing area. At one point, I recall proudly showing my dad a pile in my closet big enough to fill a 40-gallon garbage bag, like a cat bringing its master a dead mouse. My dad's response, that seems like a fire hazard, son. Coming up with ideas for posts is never a problem for me. In fact, I recently had an idea for a post titled, "Good Ideas Are Stupid." Look for that one down the road. To generate new ideas, I usually start with a topic and then think of a story from my past that relates to it. Then I write out the story, focusing on how I was a bit of a rascal when I was younger. Once I write out the story, as above, I'll write a bit on how that pattern has caused me suffering throughout my life. See below. In my teens and youth, I spent a lot of time penetration testing the security of various businesses, stealing and getting in places for free. I never got caught going in through the exit door at the tower, but I did get caught with a number of my tests. I pushed up against the boundaries of society, and society eventually pushed back. There were some legal and financial consequences to my actions for sure, but looking back, that wasn't the worst of those experiences. The worst part, and call this my karma if you will, was that in being so opposed to society, I found it very difficult to have relationships with people who weren't of a similar mindset. At one point, around age 30, all of my friends were criminals. My guess is that there are people who can do things that are morally questionable and still feel authentic when they sit down with the people they love. I'm sure many of them are running our country. Perhaps I'm more sensitive, and when I do something I'm ashamed of, I can't be present with the people I love. When Adam can't be present with the people he loves, he finds it impossible to fight the voice that says, I don't want to. When I already have voices in my head saying, you're not worthy of love, your work isn't good enough, what you're doing is pointless, I tend to act as if that's true. In my life, that looks like isolation, moral ambiguity, and a lot of staying in bed and watching YouTube on my phone. It is extremely difficult to take contrary action when I'm out in the world and doing things that prove those voices right. And so I've learned that anything worth having is worth paying for. And since there are no more free rides, I tend to be selective about where I go and what I do with my time. When there's a free lunch, I don't care if Satan himself is buying. So it's not a matter of coming up with ideas. There are ideas all around me. The real problem is the part of me that shows up at the coffee shop with my microphone, ready to do some interviews, and then says, but I don't want to. It's the part that, once my hands are poised on the keyboard, ready to type about the Sears Tower, says, I don't want to. It's the part of my brain that doesn't want to sit on the cushion in a sloppy lotus position for 5 to 20 minutes a day. And yet, when I'm not confirming that this voice is right by running around and causing pain and suffering for others, and when I'm actively working in this world to help people, it's pretty easy for me to say to that voice, yeah, I hear that, but we're going to do it anyway. And as time passes, I'm confirming for myself more and more that this is what I want to do, and that the voice is wrong, or at the very least, doesn't have much power. I had always heard that President Lincoln suffered from depression, though I'm not sure where I heard it. It certainly wasn't from anything recent, as I haven't read or watched anything about Lincoln since 8th grade American history. A little research reveals that it is likely some of his behavior was due to ingesting large amounts of mercury, something I've never tried. While he may have suffered from depression, he had plenty of reasons to be depressed. It sounds like everyone around him died of typhoid fever, cholera, and dysentery, like a game of Oregon Trail. I don't want to compare my lack of greatness to his capacity. I just want to say that if he could show up with his hat and beard, draft and sign the Emancipation Proclamation, spend his entire presidency fighting a civil war, and successfully work towards ending slavery in America, I can sit down and spend a few hours a day writing a whimsically introspective blog on cooking, eating, and meditation. Oh gee, I just wrote something topical. That was very much not on purpose. So I was going to promise y'all something. Let's get to that. Can we talk about money for a sec? The New York Times offers excellent content, and I often visit the website to find recipes and occasionally read opinion pieces. In my opinion, it is one of the best sources of quality journalism on the planet, which is why I'm using it as an example. As you may know, I'm increasing my prices. While I may not be as large or polished as some of my competitors, I can offer something that the New York Times doesn't offer: my unique viewpoint. If you so wish to compare, below is an outline of what you might expect to spend with the New York Times. See the blog post for the price breakouts. That said, I may choose to adjust my pricing further, offer discounts, or even switch platforms in the future. I don't want it to feel like I used manipulative tactics to get people to sign up, but I also want the freedom to play around with pricing, incentives, and metrics to see what works for my business. Your investment in my work is about supporting my art and what I'm trying to create. If you find value in the work of the brilliant artists at the New York Times, by all means, support those folks too. Additionally, if you're as clever as young Adam was, there are ways to bypass the paywall on just about any site, including the New York Times and Substack. And while I won't post instructions on how to hack the platform I'm marketing on the platform I'm marketing on, if we are ever in the same room together, I can show you a few things for educational purposes only. My promise to you. I promise to continue to do the work of showing up authentically to this writing and also in my life. And while I can't commit to writing a post a day, every day, until the end of time, I will promise that if you pay or have paid for a subscription to my work and you are dissatisfied for any reason or no reason at all, I will refund up to 3 months of your subscription. For assistance with that, go to Contact and click on the button that says Email Me. That is something the New York Times definitely won't offer you. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve you, and because of you, as of last month, when I am in a room full of people and someone at the front says, "Are there any professional writers in the room?" I get to shyly, and with great hesitation, fight through my imposter syndrome and raise my hand. And for that, I thank you.